God's ceasing from His creative work since it was complete. In other words, the word Shabbat means that when God ended His work, the sixth day, He ceased. In other words, He created no more. So what I want you to see is that this first week of human history is what I call God's week. It is not man's week, it's God's week. Because God worked 6 and God rested on the 7th. Yet we're still left with a question. What did God do after He ceased? What quality of rest did God experience on the 7th day? How did God rest? What did He do on the 7th day? We know He didn't work, but what did He do that whole day? What was the quality or what kind of rest did He have? The fact is that the word Shabbat doesn't help us, because the word Shabbat simply says that after He finished His work, the 6th day He ceased. Now I can assure you one thing, and that is that God's rest on the Sabbath, His quality of rest on the Sabbath, was not because He was tired. Notice Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28, which by the way is not being taken out of context because it's dealing with creation. Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28. Here the prophet says, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is what? Nor is weary." Do you think that God, after He created, He says, "Whew, I need a rest"? I mean, how much tiredness can be produced by saying, "Let there be light. Let there be the firmament. Let there be dry land. Let there be trees and flowers. Let the sun, moon, and stars occupy their places. Let there be birds. Let there be fish. Let there be land animals." I mean, how much effort does that take? So we know that God did not rest. His quality of rest was not because He was tired. So we ask, what was His quality of rest? What did He do the 7th day when He ceased? The fact is that we have 2 words in the Old Testament that help us understand the quality of God's rest on the 7th day. Go with me to Exodus 31 and verse 17. Exodus chapter 31 and verse 17. It says there, speaking about the Sabbath, "It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever." And some people say, see, it was for Israel forever. Let me ask you, to whom did God give the 10 Commandments? To Moses, right? And whom did He give the 10 Commandments to? Israel. So because God gave the 10 Commandments to Israel, the 10 Commandments are only for Israel. You don't buy that, do you? Of course not. Just because they were given to Israel does not mean that they were given exclusively to Israel. See, God is speaking in the context of Moses and Israel. So He says it's a sign between Him and Israel. If He was writing today, He would say it's a sign between God and us. And by the way, we know who Israel is. If you are Christ, you are Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise. So it says there, "It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day He rested." Guess what word that is? Shabbat. That's right. He rested, but now we have to find another word. He rested and was what? Refreshed. It's the Hebrew word nafash, a very rare word in the Old Testament. Do you know what nafash means? It means to take a breath. It means like going like this. That's nafash. Can you picture God? It's kind of like an artist who has done a majestic work of art, a masterpiece, puts the final touches on the canvas, and then he steps back, he goes, that's nafash. In other words, the idea is that God is stepping back and He's taking a breath and He's enjoying what He made. That's what the word nafash means. It means to take a breath. On the seventh day, God took a breath. God, wow. You can just imagine God. Now there's another Hebrew word that describes the quality of God's rest. Go with me to the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 11. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 11. And while you're looking for Exodus 20 verse 11, let me ask you this. Who wrote Genesis? I didn't say who's the author. The author is God. The writer is Moses. Who wrote Genesis? Moses. Who wrote Exodus? Moses. Same author. Not same author, same writer. Now, what three things did God do with the Sabbath at creation? He rested. What else? He blessed. And what else? He sanctified. Now let's notice if we have the same three things in Exodus 20 verse 11. Notice Exodus 20 verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Same three things? Did God rest? Yes. Did He bless? Yes. Did He sanctify? Yes. Now listen up. If you did not go to the original biblical language in which Exodus was written, you would never know that the word rested here is not the word Shabbat. So you say, listen, if Moses is the writer of both, and in both texts it says that God did three things, why does He use Shabbat in Genesis, but He uses Nuach in Exodus 20 and verse 11? And I'm going to tell you up front, it's because in Exodus God wants to emphasize His quality of rest. In Genesis He wants to emphasize that He ceased from His work of creating. It would be a good idea then to read some texts in the Old Testament that use the word Nuach. Other verses to see what connotations, what ideas are connected with Nuach, with this rest that is spoken of. Go with me to 1 Chronicles chapter 22 and verse 9. I want to show you that Nuach means rest, peace, and quietness. This is speaking about Solomon. It says there, behold, a son shall be born to you, who shall be a man of Nuach. Shall be a man of what? Rest. And then it continues saying, and I will give him Nuach. I will give him rest from all his enemies all around. His name shall be Solomon. For I will give what? Peace and quietness to Israel in his days. So what is connected with Nuach? Peace and what? Peace and quietness have to do with Nuach. There's something in Nuach that involves peace and quietness. But there's more to the word Nuach than just peace and quietness. It's kind of a joyful peace and quietness. Notice Esther chapter 9 and verses 17 and 18. I'm going to go through several verses now so that you can see the words that are linked or connected with Nuach. It's rest, yeah, but it's not just going to sleep or just kind of sitting down and not doing anything. No, it's an active rest, if you please. Esther 9 verses 17 and 18. You know that in Esther's day, Israel was doomed to death. A death decree was given against them. It was going to be executed a certain day. And you know that when that day arrived, God intervened and delivered Israel from their enemies. And as a result, a feast was established. And that feast is called Purim. By the way, it's still celebrated by the Jews today. It's celebrated almost like a carnival. You know, almost like, I hate to use the expression, almost like a Mardi Gras. You know, there's costumes and there's dancing and there's music. You know, they still celebrate Purim today in commemoration of their deliverance in the days of Esther. Now, listen to how this experience is described. Verse 17.